If growth or change has started feeling heavier than it should inside your organization, this show is for you. This is not a political commentary show. This is leadership energy brief, because this week's headlines don't just affect markets, they affect posture in your meetings. They affect defensiveness in revenue conversations. They affect the emotional temperature inside your team. And when external pressure rises, leaders often widen their strategy instead of clarifying it. They say yes more quickly, they hedge, they defend, they overcompensate, and slowly legacy drifts. Today we're not reacting to headlines, we're using them to diagnose whether fear might be driving decisions inside your organization. If growth feels heavy, we're going to make it lighter. Let's begin! If growth or change has started feeling heavy inside your organization, this episode is for you. I'm Tiffany Joy Green, the founder of Empower People. This is not a political show. This is a leadership stabilization brief, because this week's headlines are not just news stories. They are emotional inputs. They shape fear, they shape defensiveness, they shape scarcity. They shape the tone inside your meetings, whether you acknowledge it or not. And when the external environment feels unstable, leaders tend to do one thing. They widen the funnel. They say yes more quickly. They protect revenue out of fear, and slowly, legacy drifts. Today, we're not reviewing headlines. We're diagnosing how they impact decision environments inside organizations. If growth feels heavy, this is where you look. Stories circulating of aggressive ICE enforcement, public debate intensifying, protests growing louder. This is not about opinion. This is about emotional temperature. When enforcement narratives escalate, employees feel uncertain. Leaders become cautious. Teams become defensive. Communication tightens. If you lead people, this matters. The mistake leaders make, they avoid it. Silence increases anxiety, and anxiety slows decisions. Executive move. You stabilize the room. You say, I know this week's headlines may feel intense. If you have concerns about how national events affect your work or safety here, let's talk. That restores posture. That restores trust. That restores decision speed. Any signal of instability at a global level, nuclear treaties, military posture, Arctic intelligence, increases background anxiety, even if your business is domestic. Why? Because uncertainty makes leaders overhedge, overexpand, overcorrect, and overmeet. Fear widens strategy. Legacy narrows strategy. So here's the executive question. Are we expanding because it serves our long-term legacy, or because uncertainty is making us chase security through activity? When growth feels heavy, check your yeses. Federal funding freezes, court decisions, budget tension, SNAP uncertainty. These stories activate scarcity. Scarcity mindset leads to defensive revenue decisions, lower standards, misaligned clients, rushed partnerships. This is where leaders start saying yes to revenue that slows them down. Heaviness begins here. Executive move. Ask, does this revenue accelerate our legacy, or is it fear talking? You don't block growth, you filter it. Governments arguing over AI regulation. Companies racing ahead, boards nervous, leaders feel pressure to move fast. But speed without legacy alignment creates operational drag later. You don't adopt AI because competitors are. You adopt it if it strengthens your legacy impact and decision clarity. Otherwise, it's noise disguised as innovation. Executive move. Before adopting anything new, ask, does this amplify decisions or does it increase complexity? If it increases complexity, pause. Throughout this week in American history, the 13th Amendment passed the House on February 1st, 1865. Ronald Reagan referenced the shining city upon a hill. NASA milestone shifted technological ambition. So what do these all have in common? They were legacy decisions, not fear decisions. They narrowed focus. They clarified direction. They required saying no to immediate comfort. Legacy decisions always feel disciplined in the moment, but they lighten history later. Leadership is not about reacting to headlines. It's about deciding what you are building that outlasts them. Let's talk about posture. When fear enters revenue conversations, what happens? Shoulders tighten, voices sharpen, language gets defensive. That's contraction. Legacy clarity restores expansion. When you realign to legacy, the room shifts physically. The question is not, how do we survive this? It's, what are we building that outlasts this? That changes tone. That changes decisions. That changes speed. If growth feels heavy, run a 20-minute legacy filter session. Ask your leadership team the following. 1. What legacy are we building? 2. What revenue currently supports that? 3. What revenue distracts from that? 4. What are we afraid to say no to? And 5. What stops this week? Heaviness comes from undisciplined yeses. Energy returns when legacy disciplines direction. This is not about politics. It's about leadership regulation in volatile environments. When headlines escalate, fear widens strategy. When strategy widens without legacy, decisions slow. When decisions slow, energy drains. If your organization feels heavier than it should, it may not be a talent problem. It may not be a market problem. It may not be a revenue problem. It may be a legacy clarity problem. And that is solvable. When growth and change feel heavy, realign to legacy. Say no, simplify, move forward with confidence. That's how we evolve together. If growth feels heavy and revenue conversations feel defensive, that's a signal your legacy isn't actively filtering decisions. In a 1-hour purpose reset architecture session, we clarify what stays, what stops, and what moves forward. If you're leading through transition, that session is for you. The link is below. If growth feels heavy and revenue conversations feel defensive, that's a signal your legacy isn't actively filtering decisions.